Hello everybody, Water here. Welcome to episode 9 of my second Let's Play series for Oxygen Not Included. Now in the last episode we mostly concentrated on building infinite storages for liquids and gases, but they are not entirely integrated yet into the rest of the colony, so that's what we're going to focus on for today. Yeah, with that said, let's jump back into the game and have a quick look. And here we are. Now, before we start interconnecting stuff, it's time to work on another achievement, I think, and that will require me to get into plumbing and there grab the showers, and I'm going to place it here. It is somewhat temporary and will be removed once I'm done with the achievement, but for now it will be placed in there. And then under schedule, I'm going to give my dupes a little bit of bath time. That is one part of the equation, and the second part will require me to set up under stations an exosuit forge, which should go... Where do I have some space for that? Why not? Let's just place it in there. Connect it like this here. And once that is built, I can then order up 8 atmosuits, one for each of my dupes. I would like to get this out of the way before I get more dupes, so that is the reason I'm doing it right now. Well, those should be done ASAP, so let's increase the priority. And now, while my dupes are working on that, we can plan out the next step, which is just expanding this lead and fire pool all the way to the top here. Now in the meantime, we finished with our atmosuits, so I'm just going to assign them to all of my dupes, one after the other. It's all going to take a little bit, so I hope I have assigned everyone one now. Okay, that's looking good. This one is not too stinky. Okay, so... Now, they will have a little bit of a problem with breathing, but that's not too much of an issue, I hope. And yeah, once 10 cycles are gone, I can go away with the suits again, since I'm just going to aim for a very specific achievement, which is somewhere at the bottom, I think. Yeah, drop suitability, so I need to keep them all in the suits for about 10 cycles. That is at least the idea. Yeah, now, as I said, next step is just building this little chute here. And now it's time for the pipes, so let's just grab them and run them over here in parallel. And I'm pretty low on igneous rock, so let's go with granite. Now this is the salt water. That will go up to this point here and then be bridged into this storage. And then later on we will have, coming from further below, the brine for our second storage. Then, our second pipe going down is the polluted water, which will go into this pipe here and fill up the storage. Now, just to make sure, I should disconnect here. And, okay, we have enough pressure in there, so let's collect the leech stone here. And close off the walls here with some insulated tiles. And a cycle later, we now have finally the achievement. Job Suitability. For 10 cycles in a row, have every duplicant in the colony complete at least one errand while wearing an exosuit. And that was pretty annoying, I must say. I did play around with the scheduling a bit more, and you can see, change the downtime here to bath time. But now that we have it, the next step is actually getting all of my dupes out of the atmosuits, because at the moment they are just wasting a lot of time with all of those breathing pauses. And obviously after carrying those suits for 10 cycles, they are now all worn, so let's repair them. This will also concentrate them back in this here, since at the moment they are just all over the place. So, now that my dupes are running around carefree again, they can finally get really started on all of those pipes here. And with that, all it's missing is some power. So let's just grab the wire. And I think I'm going to go with the conductive wire there. From over here. And connect it like that. When I'm there, I might as well start upgrading all of those wires down here. We should have enough metal for that, hopefully at least. And that worked out quite nicely. We should have enough metal. Although a little bit of that is currently stuck in there, so we might not be able to actually build everything yet. So, next up on the agenda. While all of this is being built, and more importantly, the polluted water starts filling those liquid reservoirs, we have a little bit of waiting time. And I would like to make use of that over here by, for one, opening up this liquid lock I already prepared. And then over here, I am going to place an enclosed telescope right there. So that will require me to dig out all of this. And we will also need power. Yeah, let's also dig out all of... You know what? Let's clear out the entire area here. We don't really need any of that. So, then, we are also going to need oxygen. So that I'm just going to grab from, let's say... Yeah, it's temporary, so just going to grab it from there. That's the shortest path. Now the question is, where is the input for this one here? Also in the same spot. Okay. So, yeah, then let's get all of this here built and the observatory in place. And with that, I obviously meant the enclosed telescope right here, which has already been in use. As you can see, there is already a good chunk of the star map unlocked. Okay, now let's have a look at our decon chamber for the polluted water down here. So these are full, this is almost full, this is, I think, enough for the moment. So let's disconnect this pipe here for a second, and now it should start to cycle. And what I want to wait for is for all of those germs in here to actually go down to zero, at least in this liquid reservoir. Since, well, with all of this here stuck at the start, there was very germy water inside of those pipes, and that obviously spiked my food poisoning germs a little bit. So, once this is down to zero, I can then reconnect everything over here. I can already actually reconnect here, and once this here is connected again, then I should start seeing the polluted water coming in there. And we have a planetoid uncovered. I suspect it's stink coal. Yeah, that's the golden iron. Okay. One we can also access through the teleporters here, but I don't want to bother with that. No. Okay. So. This is pretty much done already. Let's just speed this up a little bit. Same in those. Yep, that's looking very good indeed. Now, let's reconnect there. And with that, we should start to see some of this coming up here and being distributed as expected. Okay, that is all starting to look good. And any second now, at least once this here is full, you can see we now have nice, clean, well, somewhat clean polluted water in there. Okay, that also means I can use this bottle drainer here with enable auto bottle and this bottle filler here to prime this liquid filter. And I can do the same at the top here for the salt water. So that is the next thing I'm going to work on. And once that is done, it's finally time for the water purification. For that, we're going to start with a water sieve down here. Rotate it down. Then desalinator right here. Second one there. Then this one here will be opened up in the middle. Couple ladders in this spot here. Then some shipping. And I'm pretty low on iron, so let's go for aluminium here. A sweeper there, another sweeper there. Then a conveyor loader right here. A receptacle in this spot there. This receptacle is connected to our sand over there. And then this one here will go into our storage. Now all of this here is going to need power. This I'm just going to run through here. Like that. And now for the pipes. These run directly down. This one here goes directly up. Then I have my water. Also coming from below. And then going straight up there. That also means I don't need any of this here anymore. So I'm going to... as this here is empty. Turn this off. Get rid of it. Do a little bit of rewiring. And then this part here to the top is no longer needed. Now it will go just down here and over there via a little bridge. And I'm really low on igneous rock. I really need to change that. And all of this here can now go essentially. Okay, so that is all looking pretty good. So let's get all of this here built before we continue. And here we go. Now all that's left is setting this here to polluted dirt, which is being produced in the water sieve. Then this valve here to 2.8 kilograms per second. And this one here to 2.2 kilograms per second, which are the amounts being produced at the top of our base with this and this geyser here. Okay, so now with water more or less being done, or at least the beginnings of it, I think it's high time we have a closer look at our base core. So for one, I think high time we clean up this little hot situation there. And now, let's have a look at the kitchen. So, first things first, I need to get rid of those snow tiles here. And then I'm going to just add a normal tile here, followed by 2 insulated tiles like this here. Now, this will become a liquid lock, so for the moment I need a way to drop that in from the top via a mesh tile. And a pedestal in this spot there. So, next up are the liquids. So this here will be a 3 high layering and this just 2 high. So for this side I'm going with, first of all, mercury. Should have a good amount lying around here. Yeah, let's go with that one. At these temperatures here, that should liquefy pretty quickly, I hope. Yeah, that's good. There was some powder lying around, so let's also move that down while we're here. Then already have the ethanol and the nectar in place for the next few layers, but first we need to get the mercury in there and have it melt into liquid mercury. And any second now, yeah, that certainly took a little bit longer than expected. The mercury was at minus 60 degrees, so yeah, that was a little bit colder than I thought it would be. So, and now I can drop in the ethanol. Also do a little bit of more cleaning here. So anyway, let's see. Anyone coming around? Just speed this up a bit. So now we have our layering here. And the next step is getting rid of the ethanol in this spot here. So I'm first going to add a snow tile here. Then there's no tile here. That should make sure there is no F0 in the spot. Then I can remove the top one here and drop in the F0 or the missing nectar from the top. Just like this here. Now I can get rid of these here. Then I can put in an insulated tile here, which is going to be very important. Once that is in place, I can put in a tile here, which should make sure we don't have any liquids in this area. And then I can put in some carpeted tile in those 3 spots here, and once those are in place, I can also get rid of these here again, and should have a nice double liquid layer lock here with vacuum in the middle, so I can then continue with my freezer. And for that, we are first going to start with the insulated capsule around it like that, and an additional tile here, so my dupes actually jump through the liquid lock and don't walk through it and get wet. Then, this chute here will have to be moved over there, as will be the conveyor rail. This is no longer needed then. Should make sure this is prioritized accordingly though. Then, in here, we are going to need for one metal tile in this spot, and then a temp shift plate, and I might want to use aluminium here actually. For that. Now, this here will have to be filled with chlorine, so I'm going to first need a vacuum. So let's put in a gas pump. Pump out all of the gases, and then some temporary power from the side there. And now with the vacuum done, we can put in the bleach stone from over here. Just going to manually move that into this spot here for the moment. Then, now it's time for some automation. So let's start with actually a mechanized airlock in this spot there. Then under shipping, I'm going to need a conveyor loader in this spot there and in this spot here, followed by a conveyor meter there. Then a bridge in this spot. Little loop there, and then a path up there. Okay, that is all looking pretty good already. So, now for some automation. First we're going to need a NOT gate in this spot there. Connected to the meter, and the meter itself is controlled by a timer sensor in this spot there. Then, over here, we are going to need 2 auto sweepers in this spot and in this spot. To reach that, we're going to need a ladder there. Then I can also add some lights, and yeah, let's go with that one. Looks good. So, light here, and then one more light in this spot. There. Then, under food, we are going to need a refrigerator. Out of granite in this spot there. And then down here we have some space for a gas range. Right there, and over here we can put in a deep fryer there. There. Let's pour everything. And at the top here, let me think. Let's go through like that. And down here, down there, up here, then over there. Okay, that is all looking pretty good so far. Except I almost forgot to connect my 2 loaders to the power grid. I am also still missing a gas pipe down here for the natural gas for the gas range. And yeah, with that, our kitchen is basically done. We can have a look at the top of our base to the telescope, which, okay, area is complete. So on the star map, yeah, everything we can reach is uncovered. And we have a satellite there, which we can inspect. And then over here, a frozen Mercury asteroid field. So Mercury, cinnabar ore, and ice. Okay, that is interesting. This also means we don't need this anymore. With that, the power and the oxygen pipe. Good. Next up on the agenda is adding 2 bridges here. And once those are in place, I can then prime this one here with nectar. Just like this here. And now with that out of the way, we can make our way all the way to the bottom here. And just plainly dig out at least this area here. So I can then move this gas pump to the actual bottom of our basin down here. Now obviously it should also make sense to do something similar for the liquids that are collecting down here. So I'm just going to add a liquid pump, and that can be just normal iron. Power is the power wire from up there, and then we have the pipe which follows this pipe here, and then we will have to put this off here, add the bridge there, another bridge there, then I can go further up, and here I am going to go over there. Then at a bridge there. Okay, that is looking pretty good so far. Yeah, that is all good. Now, over here, we can also get started on digging out all of that, but before that, I should probably extend this here all the way down. And since this here has started to collapse, I should also add a couple ladders, at least at this top layer here. For now, I'm going to keep the ice and snow in place, since this is currently still used to cool down my refinery, but that will have to change pretty soon anyway. But as I was saying, next step, besides of building all of this here, is just plain digging out this frozen biome here. And all in all, this took about a dozen cycles, but we are now done with this frozen biome here. The pump, as you can see, is already busy pumping up the mercury, which is still being produced from the top here. Yeah, I am occasionally doing a bit of cleanup around the base, and when mercury finds its way in there, it will quickly liquefy and then make its way down there. Okay, so next up on the agenda is a check for our power grid. So the bottom is already done. What about the top? Yep, this is now done. Which means I can get over here, turn this on and turn this on. So we now have a full 2 kilowatts per wire. Okay, so next up on the agenda is all the way over here. Our cool salt slush geyser, which is already hidden behind the brine ice. So for our thema, the first thing we need to do is actually dig out in this area here, so we have some space to work with. And now before we continue, there is a little bit of an issue I need to handle. Yeah, it's this pump here, which for the second time now is buried in ice. Yeah, I see what's going on. This is starting to melt now. And the water freezes then into an ice block. That is a bit unfortunate, but I'm not going to bother too much with that. I will have to replace this pretty soon anyway. Okay. Then I think there is another little issue I forgot about earlier. Yep, I still need to set this here for edibles and cooking ingredients. Now it should start to move all of this here from the floor into storage. The bleach stone I already removed, since we have enough chlorine in there. I can turn this off, and that should close the door. Okay, so with that, the freezer is now also done basically. Which means we can now work on the thema here. And for that, we're going to start with 2 tiles here, 3rd tile there. And it's time for some of those airlocks. That. Then we're going to need a liquid pump here, which is controlled by a hydro sensor. Then we can also grab some power. And that I'm going to grab from over here. Then we have our... well, first we need the insulation layer. So, insulation there, insulation there. And here, we also need some there, which means I need to move the ladders over a little bit. Now, it's time for the pipes. First this goes up here, then into a liquid valve, then up, and I'm still low on igneous rocks, so let's go with the granite there. And now, this needs to go into this pipe here, so let's just go through the floor. This is where I'm going to need a bridge. Then let's just go straight down and over and in there. Okay, so that also means I am going to need a couple more ladders in this space here. And I will have to dig out in this area. And this also means I'm going to have to add some ladders at the top here, or my dupes won't be able to reach this side here. It's easy as usual. Then that out. Let's add another one there. Then we can dig that out. Then let's increase the priority for this. It's built first. So that's power, pipes, automation. So for the most part, I think we are done. Except I still need to get 2 different gases in there, and in this situation I'm going with oxygen and carbon dioxide in those 2 pipes here. And with that, all that's left is waiting until this here has been filled with brine to the top until it flows over, and then I can deconstruct these 2 here, close everything off, and then this here is basically done. I should potentially turn this here off though for the moment until I have a decent amount of liquid in there. And yeah, with that we have managed to do pretty much everything I had planned for today. So I think the last part is just a little bit of cleanup here. So we have still this area where liquids can collect, and I would like to connect it to the area down here. It shouldn't be too hard. No, I don't want to cut into and construct there. So what I'm going to do instead is a little bit of digging for the moment. And then I'm just going to add a couple insulated tiles here. And work my way up with a couple ladders like this here. And that should allow any of those liquids here to actually flow over. And then into the pump at the end there. Obviously I will have to dig out those parts here. But I will do this step by step, so I'm not actually getting anything from the outside into this biome with my little beaters there. So here we go. Now I can do a little bit of mopping. And also sweeping in this area. And over here as well. This is starting to melt through here. We might want to add one more tile here. Like that. Okay. Now, let's have a look at our tamer. Okay, this is starting to fill up, but I suspect this will take another 2 cycles or so until this is done. I would like to finish with this tamer here in this episode. I might forget about it in the next episode at the beginning. So, what can we do in the meantime? Yeah, we might want to just continue with this build here. I'm not sure I'm ever going to need it, but in case I do, I'm going to add one more module to this setup here. So first I'm going to extend the floor here. And then this is where I will build basically the next module. So this is then the wall, and the floor, and the ceiling. With those parts here, and I might want to add one here. Then we have one here, the second one there. Now I'm just copying from the right, or from the left to the right, I should say. One there, then the 2 up there. We have the one in there. The automation wire. These doors. Then we have this connection there. Should also make sure I can reach everything from the bottom there. And also from the back, otherwise the doors here wouldn't make any sense. And this is... that's the wrong spot. So, and this is also a bit too close to this ladder and fire pole combination, so it doesn't really make sense to add another pair right next to the wall here. So, then we are still missing our storage. Then we have some thing to worry about. So, I'm going to add one there, then the two there. Then I'm going to add two here, one there. I'm also going to add one more up here. That should be reachable. Yep, looks good. So, then. For shipping, I will have to add a conveyor over here. This is where the eggshells and such will be moved through. I already have this in place, but still missing the chute down there. Now, this will go along the center line, then over and then in there. Then this one here will go over. Like that. We just need a bridge there and also here. Then bridging this over like that. Okay, so that is the shipping done. Now for power. This will just continue in this, oops, this line here. And then go straight up here. Okay, that is all starting to look pretty good, actually. Now, obviously, I need to do all of the digging here. And once this is built, I'm also going to already pre-fill it with lots and lots of mercury. And there we go. I may have gone a bit overboard with the mercury, but yeah, it's definitely enough to fill this here up. And I also added a mesh tile to deal with the overflow. So, last part here, except for waiting until this melts, is setting those loaders here. So first I'm going to copy this one here. And then, let's just stop for a moment. This one here will grab everything except for cooking ingredients, edibles. Under liquefiables we have the tallow. And then we need to add clothing down here. That I'm also going to copy over there. This one here will remain as is. This is basically just the chaining of the modules. So what is not used here will then be moved via this conveyor loader over there. Oh, and yeah, let's see, where's the mercury? That should obviously not be moved out of here. Yeah, whatever. You can see it's already starting to melt, although down here it's immediately freezing again. Now, let's have a look down here. In the meantime, I was able to finish this here up, so you can see this started to fill. It's not entirely filled yet, but that is definitely enough to, or was enough to fill this. And you can also see I started mopping and sweeping the entire floor here, just so we can see when something useful will make its way down to the bottom. Yeah, with that said, we have reached the end of this episode here. We finally have our water purification in place. We have the various geysers and vents connected to our base. And in the next episode then we're going to do something similar for the various natural gas geysers we have on the map. And then we're going to work on some more infrastructure over in this corner here. And with that, all that's left for me to say is that I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please leave a like, share and comment if you did so. It really helps the channel. Independent of that, I wish you a nice day. And well, see ya.